Alright guys, welcome back to Wheelie Bin Gaming and to this week's review of the free game from the Epic Games Store, which is this week The Hunter, The Call of the Wild. This is a £19.99 get pound game, £19.99, yep, pound game, that's going free until the 12th of the 2nd, 21. So experience an atmospheric hunting game like no other in this realistic and visually breathtaking open world. Immerse yourself in the atmosphere in the single player campaign or share the ultimate hunting experience with friends. So basically it's a game about hunting, as it says on the tin. It is quite an in-depth hunting simulator you might say, and yeah, we'll get into the review shortly. First of all, let's have a look at the different options and whatnot in the game. Right, so looking at the different options, you go into settings and you get various options for different aspects. So obviously in the game you've got all your tutorials. It's really good options wise, the game actually. You can turn off and make the experience as sort of as personal as you want it to be, however you want the experience to be, how much of you might be someone who's hunted in real life and you know all the ins and outs of it and you know a bit about tracking and all that kind of stuff, so you want all the aids turned off, so you can go in and turn off all the various tracking colours and spotting colours and all this kind of things and make it as realistic an experience as you want it to be. Or you might just be a gamer that's interested in trying out this hunting game, in which case you'll probably want most of the stuff on. I left it mostly at default because I've never hunted in my life, never really had a particular interest in hunting. Coming from Scotland, we don't really do an awful lot of hunting here unless you're incredibly posh, so yeah, it's never something that's really grabbed my fancy overly much, but I thought I'd give the game a try and see what it's like. So moving on to your display and graphics settings, again, all pretty good, pretty in-depth. Quite a lot of things you can change within the graphics, as you can see here from the menus. So there's a reasonable amount. It's not massively in-depth, but there's quite a reasonable amount to tailor the graphics to your specific system. And what I did find as well, obviously I'm on a decent system with 3080 graphics card, but I turned everything up to absolute max and I found that it ran no problems at all, always hitting round about 100 FPS or more. So no problems with it running wise. It's very well optimized, it runs really well, and the graphics options and the game options and sound options and whatnot are all pretty decent. No complaints there at all. So on to the gameplay. What's it all about? Well, like I say, it's a game about hunting. You start off the main game, you get two different reserves that you can choose from. You can choose between either the Hirschfelden Hunting Reserve or the Leighton Lake District Hunting Reserve. So basically Europe or America you can choose between. There are numerous other reserves you can get as well, but they're all downloadable content, as you can see. What I did find straight away, but that was a little disappointing between the two reserves, is it doesn't matter which reserve you choose, the voice of the person sort of narrating and doing your sort of story pieces within that certain reserve is always American, which is a bit disappointing because the Hirschfelden's meant to be based around Germany and Europe, and they even say when they're talking to you about it that it's about Germany, and yet the voice is clearly an American talking. Thought they could have put a little bit more effort into that and made it a bit more relevant to the area that the game is based there. But nonetheless, the voice acting is pretty well done, so other than the incorrect accents, if you like, no real complaints about the voice acting at all. So going into the game, and just touching back on the graphics wise, it's a real mixed bag for the graphics for me. What I mean by that is there's different areas of the graphics are of different quality, if you like. So it's pretty hard to tell at the moment actually because it's night, which is really disappointing, but what it will let me do is let you see the torch, which is pretty cool. It works nicely and it's a good torch effect, and that helps you pick up tracks at night, which I'll come to a wee bit later in the gameplay. But what I found with the graphics is the scenery, the terrain, the environment, the bushes, the trees, the foliage, the rocks, all the grass, that's really quite excellent. It's terrain wise and scenery wise, it's really second to none, the game. It's fantastic looking, it really is. There's very few games that I've played that have forests and woods and landscape that looks as good as it does in this game. Really very few. However, that's not where the graphics end. The animals, they're pretty decent. I'm not going to say they're exceptional. Their AI seems to be pretty good. They seem to behave pretty well, but you still get the odd sort of clunky graphical. They look like they're moving a bit weird over certain terrains and things like that. But generally, the animals are pretty good graphically wise as well. No massive complaints about them. They just look a wee bit unnatural from time to time. When it comes to other things like the buildings, like the hand and the torch in your hand, like your gun, things like that, I think these are where the game lets itself down quite a lot. If you can look at those, I think the graphics for everything else outside the terrain and the animals are pretty poor, to be honest.
Tracks in that area earlier this morning. Hold on, I'll send the coordinates.
See, that's us in the German area, and that's a wee American chick talking to you, so it doesn't really fit with the narrative of where you are, you know. But like I was saying about the graphics, the sort of close-up graphics aren't that great. The graphics of objects, of buildings, of your hands, that kind of thing, I think they're a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest with you. Right, we'll just have a wee go at shooting this deer to let you see how it works. Oh, there you go. Lovely wee shot from distance there. And took it down. Okay, so as we're making our way over, we'll just talk a wee bit more about it. So yeah, as I touched on with the graphics, it is quite a beautiful game in general with all the environment, because that's where most of it is, and there is loads of wildlife. There's loads of birds and loads of animals for you to hunt, although sometimes it can be a bit frustrating trying to find them, but there are loads there. What's that? Oh, that's just a log. But there are loads around about that you can hunt, and the whole tracking system and whatnot is pretty good as well, especially for someone new to the game. One problem I did find when you first get into the game, the tutorials are pretty poor, to be honest with you. It kind of leaves you on your own to start finding out how to do things. The likes of this torch, yeah, alright, makes sense that you press L to bring a torch up, but I didn't realise that it starts you off during the day and it has you tracking the animal's footprints and blood splatters, and see, it doesn't highlight there until I turn the torch on. I didn't realise it at night, so I thought my game was broken when the night first came in and I couldn't find any tracks, and it was getting really, really fucking frustrating at one point, and I actually had to Google it to find out that you could only find tracks at night with a torch. Which, yeah, I kind of get it, but I don't know. For me, that was a bit annoying, especially that it didn't mention it in the tutorial. There's lots of wee things like that it doesn't mention in the tutorial about how you've got to add bullets to your guns and how it all works. You've got to find out a lot of the mechanics and a lot of the way the game works yourself, when I think that could have been handled better, to be honest, especially for a game that's so specific like this, a game about hunting. I think the tutorial could have been a bit more informative. No animations for like harvesting animals, for skinning them or anything like that. That's a wee bit disappointing as well. Same as when you get in and out of buildings, there's no animations for that. It just goes black screen and then you're inside the building. What I've also found is the hunters' buildings, that you can go around the map and you find these buildings like these bits here, and they're hunters' buildings. And what I found about them, what I'll do is I'll get us over to that to let you see it. Right, so dotted all over the map you find what are like these IKEA package boxes, if you like, lying in the ground, and you can pay a bit of money to build them up into different hunting structures, whether they be towers or wee camouflage huts like this one. Biggest problem I've found with these is they're pretty useless, to be honest. I think I've not done any hunting from any of them as yet, and here I'll show you what I mean about the cutscene. See, it just goes dark and then you're inside the hut. Yeah, bit crappy. But the biggest problem I've found about them is, look at the view. I mean, look, you come to look outside here. I mean, what's that all about? You're a hunter, what? Can you not lean down a wee bit and look out the window? Why is it so badly designed? And then you crouch and it's not great either. I just think a lot of these structures, they're pretty much just a waste of time, to be honest with you. The view from them isn't great. I've not done any hunting from them at all, and they just seem a bit of a pointless addition that should add something to the game, but really don't. Like I say, I've not found one of them yet that the view from's great. It's like you're the most incapable of bending over a tiny wee bit hunter I've ever met in my life. It's really quite poor. So the structures are a bit pointless, I think. Throughout the game, throughout the different reserves that you go to, you get a sort of a loose storyline mission that you can follow. So you go in here, you go into mission log, and you get these sort of loose storylines that you can follow. The first one, and the American one, that has you looking at an area where someone's camp's been wrecked by other people, and you start hunting them down, that kind of thing. This one I've not really got into the storyline very much so far, but yeah, there is a loose storyline you can follow, but main parts of the story are different missions on tracking and hunting different animals. So you get things like, say for example, hunt a black-tailed deer at night, or hunt 2 black-tailed deer within a certain time scale, or track 3 different bears, or whatever it might be. You got all these different hunting missions and objectives, which that's pretty decent, I suppose. The biggest problem I found with the game is, unless you're really interested in hunting, I think it's just a bit boring. To be honest with you, there's an awful lot of time spent doing exactly what I'm doing now. Walking about, looking for tracks, listening out for animal calls, and even when the hunt does begin, it's not very exciting. Yeah, unless you are someone who's interested in hunting, maybe as a hunter, or maybe has wanted to go hunting but's never been able to do it in real life. I'm just not really sure that there's an awful lot in the game to hold your interest. I thought it was pretty cool when I first came into the game. I thought, this is really well done. Great environments, obviously loads of good mechanics, loads of weapons available through the shop area, if you like, the lodges, the cabins. Different animals you can hunt, different missions of what animals you should be hunting, etc, etc, all this kind of stuff. But like I say, after quite a short time, I found the game quite boring. It's slow, it's a game of patience, and it's a game of taking things very, very slowly. When you do start the hunt, quite often you've got to creep up on the animals really, really slowly to have any chance of getting them. They run off. I mean, it's good, they've got things like all your different lures, and you've got your spray so that they can't smell you as much. Call them with your different lures, like I say. I mean, it is good, it's obviously very in-depth, but I think it's a very specialist topic, and I don't think it's a topic that's going to really appeal to the masses, to be honest with you. So like I say, just a short review as usual of the Epic Games free game. So overall, what I think is, that an eye or not, well, I've got to be honest, as much as there's obviously an awful lot of love and care and attention has gone into building this game and creating this game and putting all the hunting mechanics in and whatnot, like I say, unless you're someone who's got some sort of affiliation or interest in hunting, then I've got to say this game's a not, even free. I've just found I'm pretty bored by it and I want to move on pretty quick to something new. There you go, there's a wee example of the tracking. Oh, that's a dead animal. Feed zone. So this is where the fox has been eating the rabbits. But examine the tracks, gives you a wee direction, and you can start tracking them down. You also get things like droppings that tell you how recently the animal was there, that kind of thing as well. But getting back to the review result, if you like I say, unless you're someone who's quite a big hunting enthusiast, I think you're probably going to get bored of this pretty quickly, or unless you're someone who's like a massive stealth enthusiast. I love stealth games, but this one there just wasn't enough interest there. There wasn't enough to grab me out with, being a hunting fan myself, which I'm not. So for me, I'm afraid it's got to be a not. It's certainly not worth the £20 asking price unless you're an avid hunting fan, and even as a free game, I still would avoid it unless you're a big hunting fan, to be honest, guys. So, not from me. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, give it a like. Give it a like. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. That's fine, no problem with that. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button, and I shall catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.